Welcome to the Rotary District 5500 Grants Management Seminar. This 40-minute video will cover the Rotary Foundation, focusing on certification for foundation grants and successful grant applications. Our team includes Foundation Chair Sue Archibald, Global Grants Chair Joe Puette, District Grants Chair Diane Ventura Goodyear, and Stewardship Chair Terry Bergman. We hope this session is informative and helpful. Please reach out if you have issues. Every club should consider applying for a Rotary District 5500 Foundation grant. District grants offer a streamlined way for clubs to fund smaller, short-term projects, addressing immediate needs either locally or internationally. Their flexibility and local impact make them valuable tools. Global grants are larger-scale initiatives combining sustainable impact with international collaboration to address significant humanitarian challenges.
By the end of today's program, you should have all the information you need to be able to apply for and administer a grant from the Rotary Foundation. I'm Terry Bergman. I'm the Stewardship Chair for the Rotary Foundation Committee in District 5500 for the upcoming Rotary year. The stewardship role involves determining the eligibility of each club to apply for grants, to ensure that clubs document their activities, and to ensure that proper records are retained. There are three main funds in the Rotary Foundation. The first one is Annual Fund Share. That is money that we use each year for district grants. It's divided between the World Fund of Rotary International and monies that are made available to districts in relation to what they contributed to the foundation. The World Fund pays for the Rotary International share of grants, for scholarships, and for the Peace Fellow program. The second fund is the Polio Plus Fund. That is money that is spent every year on polio eradication. And the third one is the Endowment Fund. That is money that is never spent, but proceeds from the investments go to the World Fund for programs and projects that are managed by the Foundation trustees. The funds our district makes available to clubs for their grant projects come from the annual fund of the Rotary Foundation. When district Rotarians donate to the annual fund, the foundation invests those funds for 3 years, and the majority of the administrative costs for the foundation come from the income on those investments. After the 3 years, 50% of the money stays with the foundation, and the other 50% is available as district designated funds for projects chosen by District 5500. The foundation allows the district to use a maximum of 50% of that DDF for district grants. In our district, we allocate the full 50% to projects developed by our clubs. The Foundation is the heart of Rotary's efforts to improve the lives of people around the world. While it might seem repetitive for you to take this seminar each year, program details change from year to year, so it is important to be up to date. This slide shows the requirements for your club to participate in Foundation grant projects. 2 club members must attend and complete a grant management seminar or have taken the online grant management webinar, which is what you are doing today. The contact person for your district grant must complete the seminar. So on the list of people that will be shown on the website as having taken this seminar, your contact person has to be one of those people so that the person who's going to manage your grant is familiar with all of the requirements. Your club president and president-elect must sign a memorandum of understanding. For district grants, the MOU signatures will be part of the district grant application. Your club must be current in both District 5500 and Rotary International dues, and your club's president-elect must have attended the president-elect training seminar. The Memorandum of Understanding is on the district website. It sets forth the requirements to qualify for applying for foundation funds, the responsibilities of your club officers toward the grant project, It explains what your financial management plan is for the grant funds, the accounting requirements, the requirements for document retention, and you have to agree that you would report any misuse of grant funds. This slide shows what the Memorandum of Understanding looks like. You find it online. The Rotary Foundation takes accountability very seriously. They want to know that donor funds are being used correctly and wisely. So you must have proper financial management of your grant project so that when we get audited by the Rotary Foundation, you can show that you use the money in a proper way. You have to explain who can authorize expenditures and what the process is for doing that. You must document your expenditures, and please keep receipts. You cannot claim any expense toward your grant project if you cannot produce a receipt for the money that you spent. If you acquire any assets as part of your grant project, you must have an inventory of those and explain where they're going to be kept and how they're going to be maintained. And you must have separate records for your grant monies. You cannot intersperse them with your other club funds. The Rotary Foundation has strict requirements for record keeping and retention. This slide shows the records that must be retained by your club for 5 years for your grant project. You must keep the Memorandum of Understanding, the project needs assessment that shows how you chose the project and how you know that it was what was needed by the beneficiaries. You have to show who the beneficiaries are. Any letters of agreement that you have with other agencies. For example, if you do a project with a school and you have an agreement with a school that you're able to do that project, you must have a letter of agreement, and that needs to be part of the permanent record of your project. You have to keep your income and expense ledgers, any bank statements that relate to your project, and any record of funds transfers. So if your club, for example, does a project in Mexico and you transfer the funds to a bank in Mexico for use for the project, you must keep a record of those transfers. Here's how to get information on district grants. You can look at on the district website. You can Google D5500 Club Grant Certification and find it, or you can reach me at the email address and phone number that's shown on this slide.
Hi, welcome to the District Grants portion of the Grants Management Seminar. I'm Diane Ventura Goodyear, and I will be the District 5500 District Grants Chair. I am always available for questions. My information, you can see it. I have an email address and a phone number. Give me a call, send me an email if you need assistance. I would like everyone to be successful when they take out a district grant. I am hoping this year that many clubs will take out a district grant. You know they're designed for hands-on service projects that your club manages from the start to the finish within a single year. Additional information is that every club must be certified, and also the grant has to be completed within 1 Rotary year. The list you see here is very important. Every district grant has to be planned early within the club. And go on the district website and look at the guidelines that are necessary to complete a district grant. Always keep every record that you have of any expense. Deadlines are very critical. There are some steps that you must take in order to be eligible to take out a district grant. Number 1, you have to attend the Grants Management Seminar, at least 2 club members. Your president-elect must have attended PELS. You must be current on all your dues, both district and RI. It should support the mission of Rotary. 2 members must be included in the MOU to sign it. There are some project requirements. Your club must lead the entire effort. You cannot simply write a check to another nonprofit organization. The goal is to have engagement and impact through direct involvement. This year, as in many years, we'll be using DACDB, the grants module. All your information will be placed in the grants module. It's a step-by-step process. The district grant must be approved by the grants committee. And you have to be sure that everything is closed out, the latest being May 1st of the following year. Your project can take place locally or internationally. And if your club decides to repeat a project each year, that's okay. However, the beneficiary must be different each time. You can't use it for scholarships or vocational training teams, nor microcredit projects. It's really important that every project must recognize Rotary. This visibility helps build awareness and showcases the impact of your club and of Rotary. Promote, promote, promote. Use your social media. Consider purchasing a sign or a plaque to show off what Rotary and your Rotary Club has accomplished in your community. District grants range from $250 to $4,000. Your club must contribute matching funds and provide a clear, balanced budget. Income must equal expenses. Here's an example. If you're requesting $2,000 from the district, your club has to match $2,000. It's as simple as that. As with most projects, timing is very critical. The applications happen in July, and the district submits plans in August. The final reports must be submitted promptly. Your project must be completed in 60 days or no later than May 1st of the following year. In the past, if there is available DDF, there could be a second go-around of district grants. Again, you need to plan ahead for your district grant. Start planning early as possible. Late applications may not be funded, and this is something that happens if the funding is not available. Be thorough and accurate when listing all your funding sources and expenses. If you're having a problem, please contact me and we will figure out how to move forward. You may wish to go back to this particular place on the video. The grants system will be available on July 1st. All the online application and reporting is done in DACDB in the grants module. There will be training videos and tutorials available, and we'll make sure they're available on the district website. Your invoices will be uploaded, your project details, any photos when you have it completed, the MOU signatures. Everything is submitted so that it's complete. The district will need to approve it, and there will be signatures required. If you wanted to see the progress of your district grant, you can go back into the grant system in DACDB. It will show you exactly where it stands. I wish every club success this year with your district grant. If anything is not clear in this video, like every other video, you can rewind it and rewatch it. You may want to take a few notes. And also, remember, you can always contact me. My information is below. I am very happy to help you if you have any concerns. Best of luck with your district grant this year.
I'm Joe Pewitt, a member of the Sierra Vista Rotary Club and currently serving as District 5500 Global Grants Chair. Over the course of the next 14 slides, I'm going to give you an overview of global grants and set you on a path so that you can plan and execute your own global grant. As the name implies, global grants are large international projects, large both in a sense of the scale in which they're executed, as well as the financial resources used to execute them. They have sustainable and measurable outcomes and must be done in at least one of Rotary's 7 areas of focus. In addition to project execution, global grants also allow clubs and districts in different countries to work together to form real partnerships in order to accomplish great things. In our district, we support 2 principal kinds of global grants. The first is humanitarian projects, and the second are vocational training teams. In terms of humanitarian projects, those are the kinds of projects you hear the most about, where we're focusing on one of those 7 areas of focus within Rotary, improving health, sanitation, education, etc. A key thing to note, however, is that in each of these areas, we're building capacity in the project. We're not using funds to build buildings, buy land, or fund another organization's project, even if they're a nonprofit. Money can't just go from us to another organization. Another type of humanitarian project are what are known as microfinance projects, which are loans given to low-income individuals, basically to kick off their economic activities within their local areas. The second big type of global grant that you'll hear about is vocational training teams, also known as VTTs. These are groups of individuals, could be Rotarians or even non-Rotarians, who travel abroad either to teach local professionals about their particular field, or they themselves can be learning and improving and broadening their own skills. So you're interested in doing a global grant, and the first question you might be asking yourself is, how do I find a great project to undertake? I would tell you that a good place to start is on our global grants web page on the D5500 website. On that page are a whole host of resources that help you get started in doing a global grant. Other places to find great projects are just in your own international travel. You might come across something that sparks your interest and say, oh, here's a place where I could help. Another place is within your own club. Maybe there are projects that your club has undertaken habitually, and those might be great opportunities. Also, don't limit yourself necessarily to District 5500. Look at other districts and their websites for ideas of where to go for projects. Next, project fairs, and these can range anything from the International Conference to the Mexico-USA Friendship Conference, which is held annually. One year it's in U.S. and the next year it's in Mexico and vice versa. But that's a great place to find partnerships with Mexico districts. Next is the International Project Fair that we hold typically on the first day of our own district conference, in which you'll see all kinds of various international projects that the district is already undertaking. Finally, a great place to find a global grant project is to upscale an existing project that you're undertaking. Some examples in our own district, the Two-Back Rotary Club had been doing district grants for a number of years associated with cleft palate surgeries in the Nogales area. And they've recently upgraded or upscaled that district grant into a global grant, doing the same thing but on a much larger scale and across multiple locations. The Rotary Club of Tucson had been providing donations to a boarding school in Senegal, and they have recently upgraded that particular set of donations into a global grant providing vocational training in the country of Senegal. So there are lots of places you can go in order to undertake a project, but the key is to find one that really sparks your interest, one that you want to stick with, and one that you want to push forward to make the world a better place. So you've decided on a global grant and you're ready to get going. What is it that you and your club must do? First, you've got to be qualified. Your president needs to sign the MOU. 2 members need to take the grant management seminar, one of those individuals being the leader of the global grant. Your president has to attend PELS, and your club dues have to be paid. Next, you've got to join with a Rotary Club in the host country. That club needs to be interested in also being actively participating in the global grant. And you've got to engage with that club throughout the entire lifespan of the global grant. But remember, it doesn't involve just visits. You can also interact with that other club via Zoom or using a nice group application such as WhatsApp on your phone. Also remember, the U.S. Doesn't always have to be the international club for a global grant. It's possible for you to do a global grant in the U.S. in which your club is the host country, and you find another international partner that is being the international engaged club. The next step is critical, conducting a critical community assessment. And it's important that you're undertaking a project that solves a problem of not what you think they need, but it's what's important to them. You got to identify what their issues are, what their solutions are. And oftentimes this involves actually traveling and visiting that particular location and seeing it firsthand yourself. Interestingly, a global grant can't be used to fund a community assessment. However, our district does allow you to undertake a global grant community assessment and pay for it using a district grant. So don't think you've got to pay for that out of pocket. You can put in for a district grant that allows you to travel and undertake a community assessment for your global grant. Next, you got to ensure that your project aligns with one of the 7 areas of focus within Rotary. Each of those areas has some detailed questions that have to be answered when you're completing your global grant application. Finally, you've got to develop a sustainable project. You've got to identify your partners and your cooperating organizations that are going to help you achieve your ends with this project over time. And all of this, of course, is based on the results of your community assessment. Continuing on in planning, I mentioned on the previous slide about sustainable projects having partners. One of those key partners are your cooperating agencies. You should ask yourself, if you're doing a project, for instance, in the health area, are there clinics, local clinics that might be a good partner to have that will help you achieve your aims? Or if you're doing something in the area of education, are there schools in the area that might be good to have as a cooperating agencies? Cooperating agencies are important not just in executing your project, but they really, really help when Rotary's left and you got to sustain that project over years of time. Who is going to help manage those things? And those cooperating agencies are exactly the kinds of places to go to get that help and support. Next, you need to develop your budget and identify your funding sources. You know, I always ask the rhetorical question, what's the best kind of money? Well, the best kind of money is other people's money. So, you know, while I say, yeah, clubs and individuals, and you might even hit up individuals that have retirements, IRAs coming in and have to take mandatory distributions as funding sources. But getting other people's money involved in a global grant is the best thing, because district will help match some of your funds, and the Rotary Foundation will help match your funds associated with global grants. So other people's money is what you really want to use, but you will have to, at some point, start doing fundraisers and that kind of thing in order to get enough money to undertake your particular project. You should be consulting with me. The global grant chair on your project and your budget. I can help you out associated with identifying funding sources and getting your project underway. And as you get further along, there'll actually be a regional individual from the Rotary Foundation, which can help providing expertise both on your project and your budget. The next two items, number 9 and 10 there, I actually have a couple of slides right after this one that I'm going to go into in more depth. Completing the online grant application, which is a detailed activity, but last but not least is this one-page executive summary, which is really, really critical for helping people to understand what it is you want to do in a short, succinct way and making a compelling argument for providing assistance and help. So I mentioned the idea of having a one-page executive summary of your project. And I will tell you this is incredibly important for getting help both in your funding and people excited about what it is that you're doing. This one-page summary, I know the one example that I've given you here is probably too small for you to read on your slide, but it gives you the idea that it's a one-page thing that really identifies the purpose of your project, what it's intended to accomplish, what your focus is, what area of focus it's actually targeted at, what your budget is, what your duration is, how far along you are on your budget, who your partners are. Key is that it needs to be short, it needs to be modifiable. It will help you to raise funds, and it'll help you to inform your friends about what help you still need. It's also a quick reference for you to undertake your project. Key is you want it to be compelling and really tell your story. So you're ready to undertake your online application. This is really where the rubber meets the road associated with your project and where you're going to flesh out all the details of what you intend to accomplish. The reality is that this sometimes takes months, may even cross multiple Rotary years as you complete this particular process. And it involves lots of both writing and then review by both people within the district and at the Rotary Foundation, and then iterations of that in order to get it right. The key areas that you're going to have to address on your online application start with basic information. And that basic information ranges everything from, who you are and your club, what's the name of your project, what are you planning to do. You then have to identify your committee members, who's on the host committee and who's on the international committee associated with the project. You then got to give your project overview. This is where you're really giving a general idea of your project as well as the solution, goals, and objectives. And you're going to be spending a lot of time associated with this. You have to identify that area of focus that your project is going to be centered upon and address a number of different questions related to that area of focus. You're going to have to come up with a measures of a measure and evaluation plan, an M&E plan, which is going to identify how you're going to prove that your project was actually successful. Or how are you going to measure once you're doing things that you've achieved your aims. You're going to talk about the location of the project and the dates of its implementation and who your participants are, those cooperating partners. How is the community and those cooperating partners going to sustain the project over time? You're going to have to identify your budget, what your planned expenses are going to be, and also where your funding is going to come from. Both the initial outlay of district designated funds, DDF, and how those are going to be matched both within the district and by the Rotary Foundation. And then there's lots of work that has to be done in sustainability, where you identify how this project is going to be supported over time and continue to make an impact on the community in which it takes place. You're going to be supplying supporting documents along the way, a training plan for those who need to be trained, that measures an evaluation plan, resumes of key individuals, and of course that all-important and comprehensive community assessment that has led you to undertake this particular project. Now it's time to fund your grant. And we do that through what are known as district designated funds. You, your club, and partner clubs within the district will raise a certain amount of money. Given that money, the best way to move forward so that you leverage other people's money is to donate that money to the annual fund of TRF. District 5500 is going to replace those donated funds dollar for dollar with DDF. And additionally, the district is going to match the first $10,000 of that contribution at 125%, or a multiplier of 1.25. Once you've got all that DDF together, the RI's World Fund is going to match all that DDF with an additional 80% of that amount, or again, a multiplier of 0.8 times that particular amount. So DDF dollars are important in order to increase the matching and to increase your overall cash. Why do you want to avoid non-DDF donations? Well, first of all, Rotary won't match cash or as non-DDF funds. And second, Rotary is going to charge you 5% to administer those cash donations. Global grants have to have a minimum budget of $30,000 and a maximum budget of $400,000. You could have something that goes over that $400,000, but there's not going to be World Fund matches above that amount. Global grants have to maintain a separate bank account, and it's very important that you retain all records of those activities of your global grants over a period of 5 years. So let me run through an example to show you how your funds grow over time. Let's say you've got a project where you're expected to spend approximately, let's say, $40,000 on that. So how much do your club and other partner clubs in the district need to raise? Well, let's start off with $10,000. So we get together with other clubs and we come up with $10,000, and we give that to the Rotary Foundation's annual fund. District 5500 is immediately going to replace those donated funds dollar for dollar with district's DDF. So my $10,000 becomes $10,000 of DDF. Additionally, District 5500 is going to match that first $10,000 at 125%. So on top of my $10,000, District's going to give you $12,500 additional dollars in DDF, bringing us to a total of $22,500. Then on top of that, the TRF's RI World Fund is going to match all that DDF with an additional 80%. So I take 22,500, multiply it by 0.8. That comes up to $12,000 added, $18,000 added to my 22.5, and suddenly I've got $40,500, enough money to fund my project. And all I did was come up with $10,000 to begin with. So I mentioned other people's money. This is a great way where your $10,000 can grow to over $40,000 using other people's money through matching both at the district and at the RI World Fund. Very, very powerful. Once you're ready to start completing the online application, you do so by logging on to My Rotary, navigating to the Take Action area and scrolling down to the Grant Center and apply for grant. You can begin writing and editing at any time, but before you submit, it's really important to get your club, your district, all your partners satisfied with your project plan and that you've contacted the district about funding. Make sure as you're going through the application questions that you answer every question clearly and concisely. This is a case where length isn't as important as the content, making sure that what you have there is correct. It's important to work with your regional grant officer. In fact, prior to submitting, it's a good idea to reach out to that regional grant officer at the beginning, introduce yourself, and ask questions. Get them to review what it is you're preparing to submit, because they're going to have a lot of advice and guidance and suggestions for you. Then, when you're ready, go ahead and submit your grant. It'll go through some approval processes and inevitably require a certain amount of editing before it's before it reaches final approval. To edit your application, you kind of go along the same line through My Rotary in the Grant Center, but this time you click on the My Grants in the top toolbar, and you'll identify your application along with others from District 5500, and then you'll be able to access that and edit it along the way. This diagram gives you a quick overview of the entire life cycle associated with a global grant. Kind of everything we've talked to up till now falls under that first little bubble there, draft, creating the draft application. Once you've got that draft done, everybody's happy with it. It then goes through some authorizations. You get district to approve what it is you've got, and this all happens before you hit that submit button. So once you've got everybody happy with your grant, you go ahead and submit, and at that point your grant becomes locked, and it undergoes again a whole bunch more review and potential editing along the way, and coming back to you on occasion where the grant will be unlocked and you'll have to make edits and then go back through authorizations. Finally, it's going to get approved, and once it is approved, you'll start receiving money in order to execute your particular grant. You'll receive basically a check for what you're expected to accomplish in year one. You'll be asked how much you want for that year one, and it's a good idea to fudge that a little bit, planning that you want some of your year two funds actually in year one, because at the conclusion of year one, you're going to have to write a report, and that report is going to have to be reviewed and approved, and so your check for year two may be a little longer in coming to you than it was in year one. Once you get year two check, and you can keep, or excuse me, year two check, you can keep on working and get your grant fully to completion. Here we're going to talk a little bit about timelines for submissions and reporting. You can actually submit a global grant application at any time in a given Rotary year, but it's best if you avoid the time when we change Rotary years. That month of July is a key one, because otherwise signatories are going to change, and your grant may either fall through the cracks for a period of time or be delayed as new people come on board. In terms of reporting, you're due to have a progress report within 12 months of when you receive your first payment, and then another progress report every 12 months thereafter, and based on the terms of your grant. Your grant recipients, you need to keep daily logs about what progress is being made, making sure you keep notes on your standard measures of success, and if you've got to modify your grant for some reason, make sure you keep everything associated with the justification of those modifications. Your final report associated with the global grant is due 2 months after your grant is completed. So how long is it going to take to do your global grant? This particular slide is a hypothetical slide which lays out a grant and its timeline, but to be honest, every global grant is a little bit different. Your largest part of time typically falls in the planning and fundraising stage. 12 to 18 months is typical. You'll probably be writing all along, but 2 to 3 months to write out your grant, kind of get informal approvals before you do that submit. Once submitted, it'll take about 1 to 2 months for Foundation to review and fully approve your grant. And typically, grants go for a period of 2 years, perhaps longer depending on what it is you're doing. So that's the kind of time that takes place. But it's also key that throughout that entire life cycle, you've got commitment from all the contacts from both the host and international clubs, as well as what's known as the Committee of Three in each of those clubs that are monitoring the aspects of your execution of your global grant. So that's it. In this part of the Grant Management Seminar, we focused on global grants. In particular, we've really talked a lot about the planning stage of a global grant, a little bit about the writing and approval process, and touched on, to some extent, the execution of a global grant. Bottom line, good communication is what's key to success. Good communication with your partners and your cooperating organizations, good communications with me, Joe Pewitt, your District Global Grants Chair, and my contact info can be found on the District Global Grant webpage, and good communication with your regional grant officer. Global grants are fun. They're a way to make a meaningful impact on the world as a whole. And as you execute these, be sure to share your stories, because that's one of the things Rotarians love, is hearing the success that they're making around the world. Thank you.
You have now finished the Rotary District 5500 Grants Management Seminar. Congratulations! If you want to take notes and go back into the video, that's a great idea. Also, take the video on how to use the Grants module in DACDB. It's very inclusive, but you need to fill out all of the tabs as they show up on the screen. If certain items are not in the grants management, the grant will have to come back and we will need to request further information. This will slow up the grants process. Use the materials on the District Grants website. Our district team is always there to help.